Most hotels are famous because of the beauty and comfort they provide. But did you know that there are unusual hotels in the world that people visit, not because of their beauty, but because of the mystery and dark history surrounding them?
Are you the incubus? Yeah, I heard that. Just then, we all heard a very loud banging noise as if a door slammed shut coming from downstairs.
From a hotel that used to be a prison to an inn that was reportedly used for executing prisoners. In this video, here are the 10 scariest hotels in the world. Number 10, the Crescent Hotel. On top of a mountain in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, there's a large Victorian hotel called America's Most Haunted Hotel. This is the Crescent Hotel. It was opened in 1886 as a luxury resort for wealthy tourists visiting the natural springs of Eureka Springs. The construction here is very expensive and elegant. They use stone throughout the place, and there are also large windows, high ceilings, and spacious rooms. But when tourism declined, the building's purpose changed several times. In the early 1900s, it was turned into a school for girls. It was used as Crescent College and Conservatory for young women until it closed in 1934. After a few years, the person who gave the hotel its darkest history arrived, and that was Norman Baker. He was not a doctor and had no formal medical training. He was just a former performer, inventor, radio station owner, and a skilled salesman. In 1937, he bought the Crescent Hotel and turned it into the Baker Hospital and Health Resort. He promised that he could cure cancer without using surgery. Many patients came here because they were desperate to get well. They paid for a treatment that was claimed to fight their illness, but there was no reliable scientific evidence that Baker's method worked. Even before he opened the hospital, the American Medical Association had already condemned his claims. Baker was not a licensed doctor either, but he presented himself as someone who had the answer to cancer. He used radio, newspapers, and advertisements to attract patients. His favorite color was bright purple, so he painted many parts of the building and his belongings purple. Things became complicated for the patients. He even had a laboratory and treatment rooms here where he performed treatments, and unfortunately many people died. It's not clear how many people died while receiving treatment here. Eventually he was charged with mail fraud because he used the post office to send deceptive advertisements. He was convicted in 1940 and imprisoned in a federal prison. After that period, the building was once again used as a hotel. Today, it is a well-maintained resort with rooms, a restaurant, a spa, and a swimming pool. But the stories about the former hospital have not disappeared, especially in the basement where it is said that the bodies of deceased patients were kept. Some staff and guests claim that they see shadows in the hallway. They hear footsteps in vacant rooms and feel sudden chills in certain parts of the building. One of the most famous stories about this ghost is that, according to hotel legend, he was an Irish construction worker who died while building the structure in the 1880s. It is said that he fell from a high part of the construction and landed near where room 218 is now located. There are guests in that room who reportedly hear knocking, see doors opening on their own, or feel like someone is inside even when they're alone. There is also a legend about Theodora, a woman who was said to be a former patient of Norman Michael. According to some guests, she is seen looking for a key outside room 419 before suddenly disappearing. The darkest part of the ghost tours is focused on the basement. Here, some old equipment and items connected to the time of Baker Hospital are displayed. There are tour guides who tell stories about shadows, strange sounds, and the feeling that someone is watching from the dark part of the basement. The scariest part of Crescent Hills isn't made up. It's true that a man without a medical license used this place to treat people. Number 9, the Stanley Hotel. In Colorado, there's an old hotel famous for its ghost stories and its connection to the horror novel The Shining. This is the Stanley Hotel. It opened in 1909 at the foot of the Rocky Mountains. The building is large, the hallways are long, and the surroundings are quiet, especially when there are only a few guests. But its scary reputation started because of Stephen. In 1974, King stayed here with his wife. The hotel was about to close for the winter season, so they were almost the only guests. They stayed in room 217. That night, King dreamed that his son was being chased down the hotel hallway. When he woke up, the story of The Shining formed in his mind. Because of this, the Stanley Hotel became the inspiration for the terrifying Overlook Hotel in the novel. But it's not just because of the book that the place is scary. There was also a real accident that happened in room 217. In 1911, an employee named Elizabeth Wilson entered the room. She didn't know that there was already a gas leak. When she lit the candle, the room exploded. She fell to the floor below and was seriously injured, but she survived. And when she eventually passed away, the story arose that Elizabeth's spirit supposedly remained in the room. Some guests say that their belongings move on their own. The door opens and the lights turn off or on without anyone touching them. There's also a story that sometimes the belongings of men sleeping there without a female companion are supposedly taken out into the hallway. Aside from room 217, the fourth floor is also well known. It used to be the residence of the employees and their children. There are guests who say they hear a child running, laughing, and playing in the hallway, even though no child can be seen. Some people say they hear a piano playing in the music room when no one is there. The piano used to belong to Flora Stanley, the wife of the man who built the hotel. In fact, the building is over 100 years old. That's why the floors creak, the doors move because of the wind, and sounds echo through the long hallways. Even though the place is scary, visitors still continue to come. Number 8, Karosta Prison Hotel. In Latvia, there's a former military prison that you can visit. You can enter as a tourist and even spend a night there. This is the Karosta prison in the city of Liepāja. The building was constructed around 1900. It was supposed to be a military hospital, but it was turned into a prison for soldiers who broke the law and military rules. It was used during the Russian Empire, both world wars, and the Soviet occupation. It remained a detention center until 1997. Now, it has become a museum and a unique overnight attraction. This is not like a normal hotel with soft beds and nice rooms. You will sleep in a real prison cell. The bed is simple, the surroundings are cold, and there is almost no comfort at all. They also have a special program called Behind Bars. Here, the staff act as prison guards. They can give you orders, make you do exercises, and treat you like a new inmate being brought into a military prison. Before joining, visitors must agree to their rules. This is just a role-playing experience, but they intentionally make it strict and scary. The cells are real prison cells, the doors are made of steel, and you can still see the old condition of the building. So while you're lying inside the dark cell, it's easy to imagine the people who were really imprisoned here before. Visitors don't come here to relax. They come here to experience what it feels like to be locked up in an old military prison, even just for one night. Number 7. Seven Dragsholm Castle. In Denmark, there's one that has been standing for more than 800 years. This is Dragsholm Castle. It started as a medieval fortress. It was also used as a home for noble families and as a prison for important prisoners. Now it is a luxury hotel with 41 rooms and well-known restaurants. But aside from the food and beautiful rooms, it is also famous for stories about ghosts. There are 3 of the most well-known ghosts said to appear here. First is the Grey Lady, who according to legend was once a servant in the castle. Second is the White Lady, who is said to be a woman imprisoned by her own family because of a forbidden relationship. The third is James Hepburn, Earl of Bothwell. He was the 3rd husband of Mary, Queen of Scots. Bothwell was a real historical figure. He escaped from Scotland but was eventually captured and imprisoned in Denmark. He spent the last part of his life as a prisoner in Dragsholm Castle. According to stories, he is said to be seen in the courtyard and near the former prison section. There are also visitors who say they have heard rustling sounds, knocking, and footsteps at night. The castle is very old. The walls here are also thick. The floor is old, and you can hear a lot of sounds here. At dawn, many people say they often hear footsteps in the hallway. Number 6, the Queen Mary. In Long Beach, California, there is an old ocean liner that was turned into a floating hotel. This is the RMS Queen Mary. It started carrying passengers across the Atlantic Ocean in 1936. When the Second World War came, it was turned into a troop ship and used to transport thousands of soldiers. After the war, it returned to passenger service until it was finally retired in 1967. Since then, it has been permanently docked in Long Beach. Now there are rooms, restaurants, a museum, and an event venue inside the ship. But the Queen Mary is also famous for stories of supposed hauntings. One of the most frequently mentioned is the old swimming pool. It hasn't had water for a long time, but there are visitors who say they've heard splashing, children's laughter, and footsteps around. There are also stories from the engine room and the ship's long hallways. Some people claim to have heard old machinery, seen shadows, or felt like someone was following them. There is no solid evidence proving that these are paranormal. There are also some ghost stories about the ship that have no clear historical record, but the Queen Mary itself uses these legends in their official haunted tours. Even without ghosts, it's still a unique experience to sleep on a nearly 90-year-old ship. The hallways are narrow, the rooms are old, and you can hear various sounds coming from deep within the ship. If you wake up in the middle of the night and hear footsteps outside, it's hard to tell if it's just a normal noise or if someone else is walking with you on the Queen Mary. Number 5. The Langham. In London, there is a luxury hotel that opened in 1865. This is the Langham. It is known for its beautiful rooms, expensive food, and famous guests. But there is one part of the hotel that is more famous because of a scary story. This is room 333. According to old stories, some guests have said that they saw a man wearing Victorian clothes inside the room. They say that he just stands near the bed or the window before suddenly disappearing. One of the most famous stories is about a BBC announcer who reportedly saw a strange figure while staying in the room in the 1970s. But like other ghost stories, this is just a personal account, and there is no scientific proof. There are other legends about people who are supposedly seen in the hallway and other parts of the hotel. But Langham does not aggressively use the ghosts in their marketing. Its main identity is still as a luxury hotel. It's possible that the guests are just hearing normal noises from the old building. But if you wake up in the middle of the night and see a figure standing at the end of your bed, you might not wait to find out if it's real or just your imagination. Number 4, the Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel. In the middle of the Canadian Rockies in Alberta, Canada, there's a grand hotel that looks like an old castle. This is the Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel. It is surrounded by tall mountains, forests, and the Bow River. It's also close to the natural hot springs, which is the reason why Banff became a popular tourist destination. The first Banff Springs Hotel opened in 1888. It was built by the Canadian Pacific Railway to encourage wealthy passengers to travel by train and visit the Canadian Rockies. The railway company's strategy was simple. If there was a beautiful hotel in a stunning location, more people would ride their train. But the first hotel was very different from what you see today. Most of the original building was made of wood. In 1926, a large part of it was destroyed by fire. After that, they built a bigger and sturdier hotel. They used stone and concrete, along with tall towers and steep roofs that gave it the appearance of a European castle. Over time, it became one of the most famous railway hotels in Canada. People visited it for the mountain view, golf course, spa, restaurant, and historic design. But aside from its beauty, the hotel is also known for 3 famous ghost stories. The first is the story about the ghost bride. According to legend, there was a bride in the 1920s who was walking down the grand staircase while wearing her wedding dress. It is said that an accident happened on the stairs and she died before her wedding was completed. Since then, some guests and staff have claimed to see a woman in a white wedding dress on the staircase or in the ballroom. Some also say that she seems to move down the stairs before suddenly disappearing, but there is no clear historical record that proves the whole story. The hotel itself considers the ghost bride as part of the folklore or legend that has developed over time. Second is the mystery of room 873. According to the popular story, a crime supposedly happened in this room. After that, some guests reportedly complained about strange noises, shadows, and handprints appearing on the mirror. It is also said that the hotel sealed off the door and covered it because of the number of complaints. But there is no solid evidence that a crime happened there or that the room was closed because of ghosts. The simpler explanation is that the former room, 873, was combined with the adjacent room during the renovation. That's why it no longer has a separate door now, because the room number disappeared. The legend only grew bigger. There are still guests who walk along the 8th floor looking for traces of the old door on the wall. The third story is about Sam the Bellman. Sam Macaulay is said to be a former bellman who worked at the hotel for a long time during the 20th century. According to the stories, there are guests who encounter the old bellman dressed in an old uniform. He supposedly helps them carry their luggage, gives directions, or opens doors. But when the guest turns around to give a tip, the bellman is already gone. When the staff are asked, they say that there is no employee on duty who looks like that man. Again, this is just a story, and there is no scientific proof that Sam is really a ghost. But the hotel acknowledges the story as part of the long-standing legend of the place. It's possible that many of the strange sounds in the hotel just come from old pipes, the elevator, the heating system, wood, or wind from the mountains. The building is also very large, and it has many hallways, stairs, old rooms, and quiet areas. But if you're walking here at night and you see a bellman who suddenly disappears around a corner, you might not wait to find out if he's really an employee. Number 3, the ancient Ram Inn. In the small town of Watton-under-Edge in England, there is an old and mysterious building known to ghost hunters. This is the ancient Ram Inn. Its stone walls are thick, the wood has darkened with age, and the floors are uneven. There are parts of the building that are clearly several hundred years old. It is often said that it was built in 1145, but according to the official listing of Historic England, the oldest parts of the current building date back to the late 15th century. There were also additions and modifications made in the 16th and 17th centuries, so it really is very old, but the claim that the entire building actually dates back to 1145 is not certain. It is recognized as a Grade 2 star-listed building, which means it is important to the history and architecture of England. It was previously used as an inn and pub. It is located near the old route used by travelers, merchants, and people going to the nearby church. For many centuries, different families, visitors, and pub customers have passed through the building. By the 1960s, it stopped operating regularly as a pub. In 1968, it was bought by John Humphreys. At first, he planned to renovate the old building and turn it into a home. But while living there, he said he started experiencing things he couldn't explain. According to Humphreys, there were doors that closed on their own, objects that moved, strange smells, sudden cold spots in the room, and footsteps, even though he couldn't see anyone. He said he sometimes felt like he was being pulled from his seat. These stories made the ancient Ram Inn famous as one of the most haunted buildings in Britain. Humphreys lived here for almost 50 years, and he often allowed ghost hunters, television crews, and paranormal investigators to enter the building. He died in 2017, but his family continued to open the place for tours and paranormal events. There are also many dark legends about the land it stands on. It is said that there was once a pagan burial ground in the area, and that ancient rituals were performed here. There are also stories about children who were sacrificed and remains that were supposedly found under the floor. But there isn't enough historical and archaeological evidence to confirm these stories. It's important to clarify that most of these are just legends that have formed around the building. An old dried cat was also found inside the wall. This was actually done in some old houses in Britain in the past. Sometimes, a dead cat was placed inside the wall or roof because people back then believed it could ward off evil spirits or witches. This does not prove that anything paranormal happened at the ancient Ram Inn, but it shows how different people's beliefs were in the past. There are some rooms in the building that are more famous than others. One of these is called the Bishop's Room. Many visitors say they suddenly felt a chill in this room. Some have seen shadows or heard objects moving. There is also a room called the Witch's Room, which is filled with old items and decorations, making the place feel even more oppressive. But there are many normal reasons why the inside of the building feels scary. Because it is very old, the wood moves and creaks when the temperature changes. The floor is uneven, so some things might move on their own. Air also enters through small holes and gaps between the windows. The thick walls may also be the reason for sudden temperature changes in each room. When a visitor knows that a place is haunted or cursed, they become more aware of every sound, shadow, and movement around them. This is called the power of suggestion. When you expect something scary to happen, even the normal sound of old wood can seem paranormal. But even if you remove all the ghost stories, the ancient Ram Inn is still unusual. The ceilings are low, the windows are small, the rooms are dark, and some parts of the floor are slanted. At night, you can hear the wood creaking and the wind inside the building that has stood for hundreds of years. There might not really be any ghosts here, but when it's early morning, the lights are off, and you hear slow footsteps coming from the empty room upstairs. It's hard to stop your mind from coming up with other explanations. Number 2, the Scariest Mountain Inn. In Wales, there is a very old inn known for its dark history. This is the Scariest Mountain Inn. The owner says that it has been around for over 900 years, and it's one of the oldest pubs in Wales. It is made of thick stone walls, low ceilings, and old wood. It still operates as a pub and offers lodging for guests. The most famous story about this place is that there used to be a courtroom upstairs. According to local legend, criminals used to be tried here, and executions were carried out near the stairs. There is still an old oak beam in the place that is said to have been used for hangings. There are also marks on the wood that are said to have come from the rope, but there is not enough historical evidence to prove the claim that more than 180 people were hanged here. There are also visitors who say they heard footsteps, felt a sudden chill, or felt like someone was watching them while they were sleeping. There's no scientific proof that anything paranormal caused this. But when you're alone in the old room, the whole building is quiet, and you know the place has a dark history. Even the simple creak of wood can easily scare you. Number 1, Ballygally Castle Hotel. On the coast of Northern Ireland, there is a 400-year-old castle that is now used as a hotel. This is Ballygally Castle. It was built in 1625 for James Shaw, a man from Scotland. It has thick stone walls and tall towers facing the sea. The whole hotel doesn't look scary. The rooms are well kept, there's a restaurant, and it's famous among tourists visiting the Antrim coast. But the castle is also known for the story about Lady Isabella Shaw. According to local legend, she was allegedly locked in a small room at the top of the tower. It is said that she died after falling from a part of the castle. There is no solid evidence to prove the whole story, but it has already become part of the hotel's history and legend. There is even a room in the tower called the Ghost Room. Inside, you can see the old part of the castle and information about the so-called ghost of Lady Isabella. Some visitors and staff say they've heard knocking on the door, footsteps in the hallway, or strange noises at night, but there's no scientific proof that ghosts are really the cause of these things. The noises could come from old wood, thick walls, sea breeze, or other hotel guests. But it still feels different when it's early morning and the whole castle is quiet. Then suddenly, you hear a knock outside your door. When you open it and there's no one in the hallway, that's when you'll start to wonder why Ballygally became famous as one of the most well-known haunted castle hotels in Northern Ireland.